Hey, welcome to Riverside. Today we're going to talk about something that needs to be talked about more, but for some reason isn't. As a matter of fact, the topic of the day is pornography. Put in the comments. I want to know from you, when is the last time you heard a preacher or a minister or pastor speak about the topic of pornography from the pulpit? I'm curious to know. For how big of an issue this is, I think the church doesn't talk about it near enough. One of the goals with Riverside that I had from the very start is to talk about the issues that either get swept under the rug or put in the back burner or kind of just forgotten about. And pornography is certainly one of those issues. I have some stats about pornography. I want to talk about a little bit about how pornography affects the individual in marriages and society and the world and all that stuff. I want to talk a little bit about that, and then I have some scripture that talks about pornography, or at least lusting after women or men or whatever it is, and kind of talk a little bit about that. I'm going to go ahead and get started with stats. We're going to dive right into it. The first stat that I have is 28,258 users are watching pornography every second. Approximately 30% of all internet downloads are related to porn. This next one blows my mind. The average age of first exposure to pornography is 11 years old. 11 years old. $3,075.64 is spent on porn every second on the internet. The average, I already read that one, 90% of teens and 96% of young adults are either encouraging, accepting, or neutral when they talk about porn with their friends. Just 55% of adults 25 and older believe porn is wrong. Teens and young adults 13 to 24 believe not recycling is worse than viewing pornography. According to a recent report by the BBFC, I'm not sure what the BBFC is, but according to them, 75% of parents believed that their child had never encountered porn, but of those children, 53% reported that they had in fact seen porn. According to data from the SEMrush traffic analytics tool, also not sure what that is, might want to look it up. As of May 2021, porn sites received more website traffic in the U.S. than Twitter, Instagram, Netflix, Pinterest, and LinkedIn combined. Teen, as in teenager, is one of the most consistently popular porn themes, and research shows that this theme is, one, becoming increasingly popular, and two, includes portrayal of underage characters. In 2018, 45 million images of child sexual abuse material, sometimes referred to as child porn, were reported according to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And in 2019, that number jumped to 69.1 million. Of domestic minor trafficking victims who had been forced into porn production, the average age that they began being filmed was 12.8 years old. Pornography, the porn industry, is an estimated $97 billion industry, with about $12 billion of that coming from the U.S. Look, these are just some of the stats on porn. I didn't even get into how it affects the brain. I didn't even get into how, the psychology behind that. If you'd like to look into that, a great website was yourbrainonporn.com or maybe .org. Just search Your Brain on Porn. It'll be there. There's a book. There's a website. It's got all kinds of stats and stuff. You can look into the research behind how it affects somebody's brain. But as I'm reading these stats to my college students last night, we're just shocked. Like, it's insane to think, like I said, that this is this big of an issue, but the church isn't as outspoken as it is. As a matter of fact, there's another another stat that I saw specifically about the church that said only 7% of pastors report that their church has a ministry program for those struggling with porn. With how big of an issue it is, you'd think that every church would be doing that. But for some reason, it's not. Now, I want to talk about the effects that pornography has on the individual and on marriages and society, the dating world, the world at large. I want to talk about all that. And let's go ahead and start with the individual. If you look into the stats on pornography use amongst the individual, people who watch porn consistently have higher rates of depression, higher rates of anxiety. It literally rewires your brain. If you look into just how if you look at the effects of pornography on the brain, your brain, whenever you watch porn, releases certain hormones. And when your hormones get used to that, when your hormones get consistently used to seeing that type of content, it craves more and more and more. It's quite like a drug. And so what happens is people will view this regular basic type of porn, and when that's not good enough, they'll go to more extreme and extreme and extreme measures. Not only that, but people who regularly experience porn have reported all kinds of issues, including issues within their marriage. Pornography has drastic effects on marriages. 68% of divorce cases involved one party meeting a new lover over the internet. 56% involved one party having an obsessive interest in pornographic websites. 70% of wives of sex addicts could be diagnosed with PTSD. Prolonged exposure to pornography leads to diminished trust between intimate couples, belief that promiscuity is the natural state, and a lack of attraction to family and child raising. A 2014 study found that compulsive pornography users had greater impairments of sexual arousal and erectile difficulties in intimate relationships, but not with sexually explicit materials. So in other words, people who are used to consistently watching pornography have trouble being aroused by their wives and instead are aroused by the internet and what they see online. There are marriages that crumble because of pornography. There are marriages that are just completely wrecked because of it. And it's sad to see. It really is. Let's talk about society. We live in a sex-driven society. You can't go anywhere without seeing it. It's on TV. Matter of fact, I was going to watch Yellowstone because I heard a lot of good things about Yellowstone. So I turned on Yellowstone, and episode 1, it had basically porn in there. So it's like, well, I can't watch that. Deadpool was the same way. I remember it was really, really weird thing is when Deadpool came out, there was talks about it being PG-13. And then whenever it came out that it's going to be rated R, I knew Christians who were excited about that. They were like, yes, Deadpool's going to be rated R. It's going to be comic book accurate. I can't wait. It's like, you're celebrating that? We can't celebrate that. It's in movies, it's in music, it's on TV, it's on advertisements, it's on their phones, it's literally everywhere. Social media. Look, if you don't think you can find pornography on regular basic social media sites like Instagram, you are wrong. But when you live in a society that is that sex-driven, it really does a lot of damage, especially to the dating pool. Listen, I know some friends who are still in the dating scene. I'm 30 years old. I turned 30 Saturday. But I know some friends who are still in the dating scene, and it's probably harder than I've ever seen it to be a part of the dating scene. And I have a feeling that porn use is a culprit. Not the only culprit, but a culprit. Imagine this. Imagine you're a young guy, and you could either go and court a woman and date her and go through that whole process, and maybe someday you might get married and have sex. Or you can go online and have a counterfeit version of it at a moment's notice for free. Now, I'm not saying that it's right, of course, but it's obviously a lot more convenient to go the online route than to go the other route. Pornography affects our society, affects the dating pool, it affects the world. This is a huge issue. Now, let me preface this entire conversation by saying I think that this might be a hot take. This might be controversial. I don't know. I think we need to have an abundance of grace for people who struggle with porn. I really do. I'm not excusing porn. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying anything like that. But I am saying that I think we should have an abundance of grace for people who struggle with it because, and here's why. So often you have a young boy who's like 10 years old. Keep in mind, what was the stat about the average age of first encounter? The average age of first exposure is 11 years old. So imagine you're an 11-year-old boy. You're curious about sex. You go online because your friends are going online. They told you about it, and all of a sudden, you're captivated, and you don't understand that there's real life implications. You don't understand that there's real life consequences for this. You don't understand just how drastic this is, just how damaging it is. You think it's innocent, and so you continue to watch it more and more. And before long, at the age of 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, by that point, you're addicted. You're mentally addicted to pornography. You can't go to your mom and dad because you'll definitely get in trouble and you'll probably feel a lot of shame. I'm not saying that that's how you should handle it, but that's often the case. You can't tell people about it because they're going to look at you funny and make fun of you. You just have to kind of fight it on your own and hope that you can beat it. Again, is that how we should handle it? No. But as a young child, that's pretty common. If you look at the stats, I'm going off the cuff here. I might not be exactly right, but last time I checked, it was something like at the age of, I think it's 10 years old, 50% of boys have watched porn at some point in their lives. And by the time they get to be 18 years old, it's like 95% of males. And most of them are addicted. And it's not that, if you look at the stats for girls, it's not much better. It's a little bit better, but not much. But all this stuff happens before somebody's even adult, oftentimes. Not always, but oftentimes. And sometimes people get way in over their head, and before they know it, they're fighting a battle that they didn't even know existed. They didn't even know this was going to be this. Again, I'm not saying that we should excuse pornography use. I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying any of that. But can we at least acknowledge the true struggle that pornography addiction is? It's not easy to deal with. It's just not. Now, there are some scriptures that deal with pornography. I think there's one that really hits it right on the head. That's Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. My allergies are killing me, by the way. It's like, I don't know, I'm always congested. I found this stuff, though, called anaphrine. I think anaphrine, I don't know, and it's like a life changer. Regardless, Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery in the heart. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Pretty cut and dry, to be honest with you. Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So let me ask you this. This is a question that I asked, and we're going to be a little crass here, but this is a question that I asked my college students. What do you call an event where you're having sex with multiple people at the same time? That's called an orgy. The Bible talks about orgies, actually. It's definitely not a good thing, but that's called an orgy. Now, what is it called when you go to a porn site and you view girl after girl after girl after girl after girl after girl after girl as you scroll along? Is it not the same thing as a spiritual orgy? Or is that just me? If you ask me, it sounds a lot like an orgy, at least a spirit. Because if lusting after a woman is committing adultery with her in your heart, then lusting after many women is having an orgy in your heart. Does that make sense? Like, if we're going to apply that to pornography use, where you're viewing tons of women, one after the next, do you see the connection there? Now, this passage goes on. So you have heard that it was said, you should not commit adultery, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And it continues, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. Because it's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. Because it's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. We read this passage last night with my college students, and one of them made the comment, "That's really drastic." Yeah, it is drastic. It is drastic. It's a drastic thing to say. But with that said, she also added, "But it makes sense." But it makes sense if we're gonna look at the consequences of that lifestyle. Wouldn't it make sense to take drastic measures to keep it from happening? Something that I often tell my teenage students, my youth group. I have college students, and then I have youth group students who's middle school and high school. One thing that I told them is you can apply this to our own lives. If your smartphone causes you to stumble, smash it up into 1,000,000,000 pieces, because it's better for you to lose your cell phone than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. It's a modern analogy for that passage. Our cell phones are everything to us. We can make payments on our cell phone. We're entertained on our cell phone. We can do homework on our smartphones and tablets or whatever. We can do just about anything you can think of on a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop. But if that thing is going to cause you to stumble and is going to cause you to continue down that same path, then it's better for you to smash it into 1,000,000 pieces and throw it away. I've given this passage, I've told that analogy to my students many times. Nobody's ever actually smashed up their phone, which, I don't know, it is what it is. But nobody's ever actually smashed up their phone, but I think the point still stands. You're better off not having a phone than you are having a phone and struggling with this and fighting against it and losing this battle time and time again. Now, on that note, in terms of how do you fight pornography, okay, let's say you're out there and you struggle with pornography. There's a lot of things that you can do. Okay, we talked about this last night as well. There's a lot of things you can do. One of the things that some of my students said was to find somebody who can hold you accountable. And I think that's vital. One of the biggest issues in regards to facing and fighting against pornography is that oftentimes people fight alone because they're too ashamed to bring it up and talk about it, or maybe they're too afraid of the consequences that might happen when they do bring it up, or whatever it is. So a lot of people end up fighting this battle alone, and it's really not a good thing. But one of the best things you can do is find somebody who can hold you accountable. There's actually apps out there. They're called accountability apps. If you're interested and you want to know about it, DM me. I'll let you know some of the apps. But there are actually apps out there that will track your internet use. And if you view pornographic content, it will send a notification to an accountability partner who can talk to you about it. It's uncomfortable, certainly. It's something that, it's not something that it's not fun, but it's necessary. So find somebody who can hold you accountable. Another thing that, we'll just move on to this. The best advice that I have for somebody who's trying to stop looking at porn, strangely enough, is not try to stop looking at porn. That's not the best advice. If you ask me, that's not the best advice. If you really want to try to stop looking, if you have the goal of not looking at porn anymore, the best way to handle it isn't, I'm going to take this on my own shoulders and fight this on my own. We know that's a losing battle. Because let's say you stop looking at porn for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 or 3 years. Who's to say that it's not going to come back stronger than ever with a vengeance? So no, my best advice for someone who's fighting against porn isn't, just, really focus on stop looking at porn. My best advice for somebody who's struggling with porn is to run to Christ. Maybe this is just for the Christians out there. I don't know. But my best advice is to run to Christ. Because the thing about pornography, really the viewing of pornography isn't the heart of the issue. It's not the root of the issue. It's a symptom of the issue. The issue that you really have is your heart. Your heart is focused on other things. Your heart is fallen. Your heart is sinful. Your heart isn't right. And so instead of sitting here, let's focus on the symptoms of pornography viewership. Let's instead focus on the heart of the matter, which is your own heart. And how do you fix that? I think the only way to fix that is through Jesus. Run to him. Listen, Jesus is our Father. He is our God. He's our Savior. He went to the cross on our behalf so that we can spend eternity with him, glorifying him, loving him, praising him. Do you really think that your porn viewership is too big for God to handle? The answer to that question is no, it's not. So if you're out there struggling with it, run to him. Bring this issue, this pornography issue, maybe bring it with a friend or something, but bring it to God and say, look, I can't fight this anymore. I can't take this. I can't handle it. I'm struggling with it. I don't know how to win. I don't know how to do it. I can't beat it on my own. Please help me. Take this from me. I just want to please you. Instead of making your focus not watching porn, make your focus glorifying God and praising him and living your life as a living sacrifice to him. And I guarantee that porn issue that you have will probably go away on its own. Because you can't serve two masters, right? You can't serve God and money. You can't serve porn and money. One of them's going to have to go. We're going to end with this passage. This is Philippians 4:8. Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent and praiseworthy, think about such things. Pornography does not fit into that. Pornography is not true. It's not noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. It's none of those things. As a matter of fact, it's quite disgusting. If you look at the damage that it causes to the individual, to the marriages, to society, to the world, to children, if you look at all that, it's not a good thing. We should not dwell on this. We should not let this into our minds. We should not let this contaminate our hearts. I forgot something. Last note, I want to say this. It is shocking to me that there's no age verification to enter pornographic sites. There's no, hey, how old are you? You need to be above this certain age before you come into this website and consume whatever you want. There might be a little drop-down box that says, hey, are you 18 years old? Are you 18 years old? But it's not like it checks it. It doesn't take a rocket science to figure that one out. All you have to do is click the box. Can we at least all agree that you need to be X amount of age before you see that stuff? Before you enter those websites? And you can make the argument, yeah, well, they'll find it some other way. Yeah, they will, but can we at least start here and continue to make this stuff better? Like, blows my mind. There have actually been certain bills that people have tried to pass. Excuse me, just burping up a storm. There's actually different bills that people have tried to pass about that exact thing, but for some reason they keep on getting shot down. Can we please all agree that you have to be an adult to view that content, and then take active measures to make that happen and to make that a reality? Please. Because like I said, most viewers first encounter porn at age 11. 11. That is insane. That is insane. Listen, I'm planning on making a lot more videos. I have one more video in the chamber that I haven't even dropped yet. I might build up a little cushion of content for YouTube, but I'm excited to make more content. I think tomorrow I'm going to try to make a video on what our minister preached about this past Sunday. He talked about Jacob's ladder, he talked about Jacob fighting, wrestling with the angel and all that stuff. And as he's speaking, my brain's rushing with, man, I've never thought about this. And so I want to make a video about that. So stay tuned. Riverside community, I love you. Thanks for all you do. Keep liking and commenting on the videos. Keep subscribing. Share all this stuff with your friends. It's been really fun to see how all this has grown to some dream that I had a few years ago to where it is today. Can't wait to see where it leads us. But I'm here for the long haul. You guys have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.